5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To scratch and major itch. So enjoy your fruity pebbles, you yabba dabba bitch.
They've killed him! I'm CM Punk, and I am the voice of the voiceless.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man! Woo, woo, woo! You know it.
I got okey doke by Little Jimmy!
Live from the Pro Wrestling Report studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Monday Night Meltdown with your hosts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
I'm proud to say we're doing things the Vince McMahon way.
That's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Bringing you all the latest news and views from professional wrestling, Monday Night Meltdown is on the air.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report, live here on Blog Talk Radio. It's Monday night, September 16, 2012. Damian Nelson coming here alongside David Hero and Matthew Thomas, coming off the heels of WWE RAW. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us here in the chat room on Blog Talk Radio, and all of you who are following us on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. And right now, we want to hear from you on what you thought overall of WWE RAW tonight. Was it a pass or a fail? Follow our feed on Twitter, at PWR Show, and retweet our question, pass or fail, while the results at the end of this broadcast for you. Well, David and Matthew, coming off the WWE Night of Champions pay-per-view just last night, tonight we saw a main event setup which featured the four men that were in the championship matchups, the WWE and World Heavyweight Championship matchups last night in Boston. John Cena tags with Sheamus to take on CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio. That's the main event, just going off the air, and controversy in what the referee did or didn't see, and that was CM Punk's leg clearly on the rope when John Cena got the pinfall. This was a play off of earlier in the night when Paul Heyman, who opened up WWE Raw, came out and said to Chad Patton, the referee, that he did indeed make the right call and that it was a good call, not a bad call, in the result last night with a double pinfall finish at Night of Champions. David, your thoughts on the ending of WWE Raw and where we're going from here?
Well, obviously, it seems like they're tying in the whole thing with the replacement refs in the NFL, and it's another way of keeping some legs underneath a John Cena versus CM Punk match. But then you got to wonder, Alberto Del Rio, he always seems to find a loophole here and there. He can say that he got screwed again by the referee making a pinfall victory on Punk, which cost him the match. But hopefully Booker T will say enough is enough, ADR, time to give somebody else a shot at that world championship. But, you have arguably the four biggest stars, on both brands. You guys got, the world champion and his number one contender, and the WWE champion, his number one contender in a match. Solid. All four guys definitely can, create emotion in the ring with their storytelling. But if you think about it, how many times have we seen those four guys in the ring in some other shape or form?
Yeah, I'm not sure how recent it's been, though, since we've seen those four guys in the ring, especially when you add Alberto Del Rio, if you're saying together. Now, separately, of course, we've seen the epic battles of the last few months between Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio, and, of course, John Cena and CM Punk.
If you go over the last 3 years, Sheamus and Cena had a program. Punk and ADR had a program. ADR and Cena had a program. And Punk and Sheamus really, they have kind of avoided each other for the most part. So those four guys have been recycled into many storylines over the last 3 years, and they're still the four top guys. I think going forward, we're going to see some changes, and it's evident because they're starting to do some stuff with the mid-card. But I'm hoping that tonight was the last night we see those four guys all in the ring together for at least a little while.
Matthew Thomas, your thoughts on the ending of WWE Raw tonight? John Cena pinning CM Punk in controversial fashion for the second night in a row. This time, Punk's leg on the bottom rope.
I thought it was a solid match between all four guys. To me, it felt like kind of a safe holding pattern to finish Raw. You know, you've got to think you're going to get Cena, Punk, Hell in a Cell, Del Rio, Sheamus. That's still kind of up in the air. But the part that bothered me from the start, from the announcement of that match at the start of Raw, there was never really any clear stipulation in regards to the outcome. It was basically AJ saying, okay, based on who gets the win in this match, it's going to go a ways to determining who the number one contender is and who gets a rematch. But it was one of those matches where the outcome really didn't determine anything. It was that kind of broad language from the start that just made it seem like just a safe move to make to, in my opinion, buy some time until they can figure out the exact way they want to book it.
Interesting point there about buying time, but coming out of this, it's still a situation between CM Punk and John Cena and Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio, but at the beginning of the night tonight, as we said, Paul Heyman opens up the show and gives justification for CM Punk still being the WWE champion. I was very surprised when Alberto Del Rio came out and voiced his concerns over his shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, getting a very spotlight position on Raw tonight. Alberto Del Rio, by the way, I think delivered tremendously in front of that Raw audience tonight. He looked again like he was championship material, which I can't say he has in quite some time. To your point as well, Matthew, about AJ not clearly making that stipulation, I think that does buy them time, as you said, and leaves it open-ended as far as what they're going to do going down the road. But next month is Hell in a Cell on pay-per-view. So one would expect it's going to be Cena and Punk in the cell, and maybe even Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio in the cell as well. Gives us a reason to tune in next week to find out what is going to happen with that storyline. Now, we talked about David Hero, Paul Heyman, opening up WWE Raw tonight, and he, of course, was just as brilliant as always on the microphone. But one thing he finally said, I guess he somewhat finally defined his role with CM Punk by saying he was, and I quote, the voice of the voiceless. Now, a lot of people have said that that CM Punk does not need Paul Heyman. I would still say that to be the case, but Paul Heyman has enhanced the heel turn, if you will, of CM Punk for sure.
No, there's no question. CM Punk needs Paul Heyman for this quote-unquote heel run that he's doing, just because Paul Heyman is a lightning rod for controversy. I mean, CM Punk can go out there and cut all the anti-Cena promos he wants. Let's not forget, that's what got him so over a year and a half ago, was the pipe bomb. So for him to go out there and do more pipe bombs on a guy that is loved by only 50% of the audience won't do any good. That's why Paul Heyman was brought in, just to help, just to tweak a little bit. And who knows, I mean, how interesting could it be if all of a sudden Brock Lesnar shows up in CM Punk's corner?
Right, because he's still, well, I guess one thing's for sure, Brock Lesnar is a Paul Heyman guy.
And that's fantastic. Imagine the crowd reaction if Brock Lesnar were to walk out and be the big daddy cool to CM Punk's Shawn Michaels.
In just a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be entering the phone zone. We're looking for one person who thought WWE was a pass, Raw tonight was a pass, and one person who thought it was a fail. We're taking those calls right now at 877-317-9772. Again, that's 877-317-9772. We're live here on Blog Talk Radio Monday night, September 16, 2012. And it was on this Monday night, September 16, that we found out more details about the developing situation with Jerry the King Lawler, who flew back to his home of Memphis, Tennessee today on Vince McMahon's jet and reunited with the man who saved his life, one of the WWE doctors. Michael Cole sporting a Long Live the King t-shirt. We found out we're going to get an interview with Jerry Lawler next week on Raw. Jerry walking on his own, looking great. What a tremendous story some 1 week later after that very scary situation that evolved at ringside in Montreal on Raw last week. And let's not lose sight of the fact that the replacement team for Jerry the King Lawler is just absolutely tremendous. For those of you that didn't listen to the post show for WWE Night of Champions last night or had not heard otherwise, JBL returns to WWE in the broadcast position alongside Michael Cole last night. But tonight, joining Michael Cole and JBL, who is a wrestling god, by the way, was none other than the Hall of Famer himself, good old JR Jim Ross. And Matthew, this team just absolutely delivered tonight. You want to talk about focusing on the right things and delivering what commentators should deliver? Damn, they were good.
Oh, without a doubt. And Michael Cole and JBL together is the team that I do not think gets the respect that they deserve. Their SmackDown run from years past was one of my favorite announce duos. I thoroughly enjoy Cole and JBL when they're together, and you had JR in there tonight as well. Absolutely magnificent, and I noticed time and time again just how effective JBL is as it pertains to heels, as getting the heels over and making those viable points too, where it's like this guy. It's not just the heel antagonistic announcer. He's making credible points to what the heels are trying to get across, and I think he's going to be an absolutely invaluable asset in the interim until Lawler can come back.
Now, David Hero, we're going to be doing a special edition episode coming up in the next few weeks here, looking at the importance of commentary in professional wrestling. And sometimes you don't know what you don't have until you don't have it anymore, or you don't know what you're missing until you actually get it. And I think tonight, and even last night, was a case of us not fully realizing what we were missing from that table at ringside. Now, this is not at all, let me be clear, a knock on Jerry Lawler. But this is a knock more so on the direction WWE chose to take commentary in over the last few years, and a repositioning, if you will, due to the circumstances last night and tonight. Man, there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to cover that in-depthly on a special episode of Primetime coming up in the next few weeks. Also tonight, though, we saw the debut of a new segment on WWE RAW, and it was Miz TV. You know, Miz, the endorsed, awesome, former WWE champion and WrestleMania headliner. His guest would be Booker T, and initially, The Miz would give Booker T a bit of the brother love treatment, asking him a question, not giving him a chance to answer it, pulling the microphone right back after each question. Booker T finds an answer to that in the one-man wrecking ball, I guess you could call him, Ryback, who comes out, The Miz runs, and then destroys Miz TV. This could have been the first and last time we saw Miz TV, Dave.
You know what? When I saw it was Ryback, I was like, I'll be damned. It's time now to get the hashtag Save Miz is going for you, Damian Nelson, because I don't think this is going to end well for Miz TV and The Miz. I mean, who would have thought that Ryback's first big main program would be for the Intercontinental Championship? Kind of reminds me a little bit of Ultimate Warrior and the Honky Tonk Man.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The big, jacked-up, babyface crowd favorite in Ryback against the annoying, obnoxious Miz.
Former WWE champion.
Yeah, he
former,
is the former...
man who headlined WrestleMania.
Yes, he is all that.
A man who's going to be starring in one of the upcoming WWE movie releases. A man who got the 8 o'clock hour on Raw tonight to kick it off. A man who got a ton of focus on Raw tonight.
Was he given the 8 o'clock hour to serve up Ryback to the fans?
Well, The Miz made Ryback better tonight.
Absolutely interesting scenario here with Ryback and The Miz. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out. And, I mean, The Miz, obviously, the powers that be have a ton of confidence in his in-ring ability to carry a match, and let's hope The Miz is wearing a heavy-duty weightlifter's belt for this, because he's going to have to be carrying Ryback quite a bit.
You know, I wonder which segment actually got Ryback over more, the Subway segment with Jared or Miz TV. Matthew, one thing that's always fun from WWE is when they bring in this whole Subway thing. They integrate it so well. You had Truth and Little Jimmy. You had Ryback, Feed Me More, which was, of course, made all the sense in the world. And you even think back to when they were first doing the Subway business. And remember when Santino came back, he got the sandwich and then ran away. before he left after trying to get away from somebody. Just funny stuff and well done. But Ryback tonight, hey, I think I didn't become a fan, but I gained some. I guess he gained some credibility with me tonight for some reason. Did Ryback? Matthew, your thoughts on Ryback being the destroyer of the Miz TV debut?
Well, if I ever need a hand the next time I move, I know who to call. I mean, that guy can throw catches around like nobody.
He's one man in a truck.
My concern in all of this is kind of to David's point. I don't know that Ryback, booked the way he is now, can lose. Going into a program with the Miz, I don't necessarily see Miz getting the better of him. At this point, it seems like that he's just booked as that unstoppable monster, and it seems like he is definitely got an Intercontinental belt in his future.
I think it was interesting tonight. We came out of Raw with a couple of new pairings, if you will. Ryback and The Miz, obviously they're going to be going forward with something. Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio and the Primetime Players, they're going to be going forward with something. And, that's two big new things.
Let's not forget Brodus Clay and Antonio Cesaro.
Absolutely. Another great point. Brodus Clay and Antonio Cesaro. And most of that happened over the course of the first 90 minutes of the program.
So they're taking their two big monsters, in Cesaro and Clay, and pairing up with the two young heels that obviously they feel comfortable with that can carry a match. I'm pretty confident that Cesaro can carry Brodus Clay. I don't think The Miz has ever been put in the spot where he now has to be the ring general with somebody.
Mm-hmm. It's an excellent point.
Let me ask you this. How many of these programs that we just mentioned about would have seen the light of day in the old 2-hour format?
None of them. None of them. And that's a great question. Because,
they would have to. They'd have to because it's a U.S. title and the IC title. And then you got the two kid-friendly babyfaces in Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio. They would have found a way to squeeze it in. It may have happened on SmackDown. It may not have happened on Raw. But they would have found a way to get it in.
But let's be real here. The only thing people really notice is what happens on Raw. And the point that Raw is now 3 hours, they've got a lot more time. And I'm going to say this, and we're still looking for your pass-fail ratings on Raw tonight via Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. Retweet our tweet and ask the question, was tonight overall Raw a pass or a fail? I thought tonight overall flowed tremendously well. Everything had meaning, and I was intrigued by the voices in my head. Not Randy Orton rolling all over Tensai, but the voices in my head from the commentary team of Cole, JR, and JBL. They did more on this program tonight than any of the in-ring performers did, just simply selling us what we needed to be sold and what we haven't been sold for quite some time in WWE, the backstory, the talent, and the attachment to that talent. Kudos to them for that. And Matthew, I think you're dead on. We would not be seeing this if not for the 3-hour Raws, and we would not, maybe had not noticed it as much if not for the commentary team that was in place tonight.
Well, Damian. Oh, go ahead, Matthew.
I agree, absolutely. It seems like if you would have seen it, I think it had been just little brief snippets, and having the exposure that these multiple programs got tonight, especially the Sin Cara, Mysterio, and the Primo and the Primetime Players, that's a potential tag team feud, a program that is not even involving the belts, and to get the tag team titles in any type of spot going back a few months ago, much less a tag team program that is not involving the belts, that's kind of an undercard tag team program. It just seems like it would have been unheard of prior to the 3-hour format.
I'm just ecstatic that they finally got Layla and Cesaro off of the commentating table, because when you have a wrestling god like JBL and the Hall of Famer Jim Ross, nobody wants to listen to them talk. You already have 3 people in the booth. They're all fighting for mic time. The last thing you want to do is to bring in anybody else. So they finally got that figured out. But you know what? For me, it still seemed like Jim Ross was still on mute for most of the show. that most of
Really?
the commentary was Michael Cole and JBL. Now, maybe it's because maybe I wasn't paying 110% attention, but it just seemed to me like I would have that Jim Ross wasn't saying as much as everybody else.
Oh, my. Yeah, I did not pick up on that at all. I thought the time was spread equally amongst the three of them, not so much as far as the time that they spent on the microphone, but in the time or the moments by which they spoke. And Jim Ross has said publicly that a three-man booth is very difficult, but I thought it was all done very well as far as how often each of them spoke. It didn't ever strike me that somebody was speaking when they shouldn't have been. Now, things got a little testy between Cole and JBL for a while there, which got a bit annoying for a few moments, but other than that, I thought they were all right on point.
Well, we pulled off a three-man booth fairly well on Saturday night, though, didn't we?
Well, yeah, I carried you guys to a good show. You're welcome. Speaking of last week, I want to thank everybody listening out there. The Pro Wrestling Report, starting with last Monday's Meltdown, going through this past Sunday's Night of Champions post-show. Over 70,000 people watching us or listening to us. Our episodes of last week, including Be the Booker, a special on Friday, primetime Saturday night, the post-show on Sunday, and last Monday's Meltdown, and last Thursday's Sudden Impact Radio. I want to thank you guys as well. 70,000 of you listening to the Pro Wrestling Report, watching the Pro Wrestling Report last week. And we're on our way to 20 million on YouTube real quick if that keeps happening, folks. But let's talk more about WWE Raw. Matthew, one point you made was about tag teams. Let's go through the matches that happened tonight. And the first matchup we saw was the tag team of Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara teaming up to take on Primo and Epico. This was a fun matchup, which really, I think, allowed the abilities of Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara to shine through. I didn't expect the Primetime Players attack after the matchup, but I also didn't expect to realize how great a tag team that Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara can be. And quite frankly, that's the best thing WWE could have done with either of them, because Rey's got nothing else to prove. Sin Cara's got every bit of need to prove his value, because at this point fans still don't care about him. So it was a great match. It was fun, and I think it had purpose, especially with the Primetime Players attack after the matchup.
Absolutely, and to echo that, Damien, it gives Sin Cara something to do, and that's one thing that I've been wondering here recently. What type of major program can you ever really have with a guy who cannot speak? I mean, you either get him a mouthpiece or you throw him in a tag team with somebody the likes of Rey Mysterio, because up until now it's basically been a bit of a special attraction. He comes out, they dim the lights, and it's, the Sin Cara spot for 5-10 minutes, however long. Now you've actually got something fairly interesting with him with Mysterio. So I think it's about the most logical thing that they could have done with Sin Cara at this point.
Next matchup was Beth Phoenix versus Eve, which, as you talked about earlier, David, had Layla on commentary. Eve, the new Divas champion as of last night, defeats Beth Phoenix in that matchup, but the story there was truly between Eve and Layla. Layla, the former champion. Next matchup had Antonio Cesaro on commentary, the United States champion, as Brodus Clay took on Heath Slater. Now, yes, indeed, you're right. Both of those men endorsed, and for a while there, after Antonio Cesaro got involved in the matchup, it seemed as if Heath Slater might get a big win, but it would be Brodus Clay defeating Heath Slater, and then the stare down and the walk away by Brodus and Cesaro after the matchup. Next matchup was Dolph Ziggler, the show-off, versus Santino Marella, and really, again, the commentary team stood out during this matchup because JBL continued his glowing endorsements of Dolph Ziggler. And, David, you talked last night on the post-show about Dolph Ziggler needing to get wins. He got a win tonight on Santino, but he got a decisive victory on him in a match that was not necessarily quick, but one that may be setting Dolph Ziggler on the path to freedom of redeeming that Money in the Bank championship opportunity.
Dolph Ziggler is always going to beat the Santinos and the Zack Ryders and, the Sin Caras, I guess you could say, if you will. He needs to start beating the Randy Ortons and the John Cenas and the ADRs and the upper mid-card guys, not just the lower mid-card guys. Because right now, you know what? Hey, if Dolph Ziggler goes out and wins and cashes in and he wins on SmackDown this week, yeah, that's fantastic. He's the world champion. But talk about possibly being looked at as a paper champion, as a guy that may not have it, where he doesn't have the victories under his belt. Look at Jack Swagger when Jack Swagger cashed in. He didn't have any big wins leading up to it, and that title reign didn't last very long. So they need to start getting some bigger victories under the belt for Dolph Ziggler. Otherwise, if he does get a world title run, it will not be as impressive.
I would say there that the difference is you did not have an audience behind Jack Swagger as you do for Dolph Ziggler. Let's Go Ziggler chants last night and tonight. I mean, the fans are behind him. Jack Swagger, I think, went a little more quickly. I think there's validity in your point, but I think Swagger went a little more quickly than Dolph Ziggler. Here's where you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why and where. How many chants did we hear and see and signs and nonsense and stuff for Zack Ryder? Right? Oh, that's completely different. No, it's not, because he was the guy that the fans got behind. No, I'm saying when Zack Ryder was starting to finally get his big push, where he was finally starting to get his recognition, when his YouTube show was over and the fans were chanting and cheering for Zack Ryder when he wasn't even on Raw. It's the same thing. Once he got in the ring and couldn't get any of the big victories that he needed, the fanfare was still there, but not nearly as strong. They need Dolph Ziggler to get that big, boastful, gloating win over a Randy Orton to truly get him on the right path to become the World Heavyweight Champion. He's done it already, by the way. Dolph Ziggler never got shoved off a stage by Kane and dumped by a girl 2 times or 3 times or however many times it has. I don't think there's a comparison there. You can, if you think so, that's fine. But I don't think there's any comparison to the fan interest. I'm not comparing. I'm saying they're similar. There's a difference. Semantics. I think it's when did Dolph Ziggler? See, that's how similar they are. I'm getting them confused. When did Dolph Ziggler beat Randy Orton last? It's been a while. It's been about a minute. Okay, exactly. See, that's what I mean. It's uneventful. And I like Dolph Ziggler. I think he's absolutely freaking tremendous. But I'm just saying, he needs to get that big win. Wade Barrett makes his big return to WWE Raw tonight. Hold on. Unless they're going to do the thing where, much like when Daniel Bryan Danielson had his Money in the Bank and kept losing week after week after week, and then finally cashed it in on Big Show. But still, I think that Daniel Bryan Danielson is a little more charismatic as a character performer than Dolph Ziggler is to pull that off. The Barrett Barrage makes its return to WWE Raw. Wade Barrett takes on Justin Gabriel, and I got to say, dang, Wade Barrett just looks good and did good in that matchup. And again, to your point earlier, Matthew, about the 3-hour Raws and the different things WWE can do with them, that match was not a squash match per se, just simply because of the amount of time it was given, and Justin Gabriel mounting at least somewhat of an offense for a period of time. It was a decisive victory for Wade Barrett, which he needed on Raw because the Raw audience has not seen him in a long time. But I was a little surprised by the "We Want" or "Bring Back Nexus" chants that we heard from Bridgeport, Connecticut tonight as well.
No, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and it was loud, too.
Yeah, yes, it was.
But wrestling fans are obnoxious to begin with. You know,
what
I mean,
did you just say about our audience?
I said wrestling fans are obnoxious to begin with. Please, if it was Dolph Ziggler against Mike Mondo tonight, they would have been chanting for the Spirit Squad. Right? Exactly.
They're having fun. You just called them stupid. They're having fun.
No, I didn't. I said they're obnoxious.
Some people like to have fun when they go to wrestling events.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew, I'm at least glad for one that I'm glad for one that you at least are still a fan of professional wrestling, Matthew Thomas. Thank you for that.
You're quite welcome.
Tag team champions, the brand new tag team champions of Kane and Daniel Bryan get a rematch against Kingston and R-Truth, and the odd couple definitely still the case between those two. And well, we heard it again all night tonight. And, David, I know you love this. I am the tag team champions.
I am the tag team champion so much I even got my official I am the tag team champions t-shirt.
What?
Exclusively at pwrshow.com. You can get those right now. They are fantastic. Yes, they even have men's sizes.
I am the tag.
Well, mediums for you.
I am the tag team champions.
Yeah, they're exclusively right now on pwrshow.com.
Huh, fascinating. Well, Randy Orton rolled over Tensai like a steamroller. We got a tweet earlier that asked,
you are full of crap. He did not roll more like a steamroller. That was a pretty solid match. That was a good match. Tell me that wasn't a good match.
Yeah. No, my monitor must have went out, or I was watching an old feed of something because it wasn't a good match to me.
You're probably watching the Golden Girls again. Listen, those two guys, it was a solid match. I'm not saying that it was fantastic. I said it was solid. I thought it was actually pretty good. See, if you were paying attention to the match instead of drooling over JBL and Jim Ross on commentary all night, you'd been like, wow, those two guys put together a nice little deal.
Does it ever hurt?
Does it whatever hurt?
When you're spinning your head around so fast.
No, because I'm good at it. I have enough of whatever I need to make sure it's a simple spin, and we're good to go.
Did you see the former President Obama supporter on Fox and Friends this morning?
No, I did not. But I am dying to watch Jesse the Body Ventura on Piers Morgan tonight. Yes.
That's on CNN, the world's most trusted name in news, right? Damian Sandow versus Zack Ryder. Damian Sandow, a decisive victory over Zack Ryder. Woo, 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 you know it. But it didn't sound like JBL was a big fan of Sandow.
Well, no, he's not going to be because he has to try to help get Zack Ryder over. You know what, though? Where the hell were Damian Sandow's pink wrestling shorts? That's what I want to know. Where were the pink tights tonight? Is there like a memo that no one can wear pink except for John Cena?
Likely.
It seems like it, doesn't it? And it's funny because 2 weeks ago when Dolph Ziggler came out with a black T-shirt, I'm thinking, why is he not wearing the pink? That's him. Yeah. That's cocky. That's sexy. Now we know why.
Everything in that company happens for a reason. They sometimes may not even know what that reason is, but everything happens for a reason in that company. Those were the matchups on WWE Raw tonight. We're going to come back in just a few minutes with our final thoughts on Raw, but before we do that, we're going to take a time out, and when we come back, we're going to go into the phone zone and then bring you a preview for this Thursday's Impact Wrestling and also a preview of this weekend's primetime television. But while we're taking this time out, head on over to our Twitter page, at PWR Show on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. Let us know what you thought. Was Raw a pass or a fail tonight? Retweet our tweets to let us know whether or not you give it a pass or a fail. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown, live on Blog Talk Radio.
Monday Night Meltdown continues after this, live on Blog Talk Radio. The Monday Night Meltdown phone zone is now open. Give us a call live at 1-877-317-9772. And be sure to press 1 to get in where you fit in and be part of tonight's live show. We'll call on you by your area code, and when you hear it, tell us your name and where you're calling from. Then proceed with your question or comment.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. Damian Nelson along with David Hero and Matthew Thomas talking to you about tonight's WWE RAW. I want to thank all of you who have called in. We've got a couple of people now waiting on hold, and we're going to go to our first caller who's going to tell us why they thought RAW wasn't so good. As a matter of fact, we consider RAW a fail tonight. Let's go to Ruben in Northern California. Ruben, you're live here on the Meltdown.
What up? How y'all doing tonight?
Tremendous.
Tremendous indeed. I must say that Raw tonight, in my eyes, was a fail, but I will give credit where credit is due. And let me give my credit by saying it was great to see JR. It was great to see Paul Heyman. It was great to see JBL. Great to see them on the mic, and they were all tremendous indeed. But let me tell you where they fell at. It was almost a redo of just about everything that I've seen in the last couple of months. What I'm looking for is something fresh, something new, something indeed. Now, the only fresh thing that I saw was Ryback and The Miz. That was it. After that, everything seemed to be redone and just reworded just to make it sound like new for us. Now, I know this program is not built for us anymore. It's more of a family, little Jimmy type of program. But if you want to make things interesting for me, come new, come correct, represent, nothing less.
So, Ruben, thank you for that call. You're giving the show a fail, and we appreciate your feedback. But I gotta say, we talked about this earlier. I'm not sure over the last few months you've seen the Primetime Players or Sin Cara teaming with Rey Mysterio, or Ryback going into a program for the Intercontinental Championship, or Brodus Clay going into a program for the United States Championship, or Eve as a Divas Champion, or Wade Barrett coming back as the Barrett Barrage, or Tensai, as fun as that is. But on the top of the card for sure, Sheamus, Cena, Punk, ADR, those are the main players that have been doing the same thing with the same people for the last several months. So I see you on that point for sure. But let's go to our next caller, who comes to us from Bloomington, Indiana, who considered tonight's Raw a pass. Arthur, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown.
What's up, Damien? What's up, David?
Hello, Arthur.
I give it a pass because finally I get to see CM Punk don't have the upper hand like how we had been for the last couple of weeks. All he did was just take control of that show and just beat up Cena, get Paul Heyman on his side, but this time karma came back to haunt him. Now, as far as their next match, I want to see those two in a Hell in a Cell match, because that would raise the stakes up big time, because right now I'm so tired. I was so happy of CM Punk with that WWE title, but right now I'm getting real tired of it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for those comments. Arthur, Bloomington, that's close to Indianapolis. I don't know if you know, but we're going to be in Indianapolis for the WWE Survivor Series on Sunday, November the 18th, I believe it is. And tickets are available right now at PWRshow.com to join us in the PWR suite at the Survivor Series in Bankers Life Fieldhouse. An exclusive opportunity to spend some time with myself, David Hero, Linda Kay, and even the Kaz. Yes, the Kaz is going on the road, coming to Indianapolis with us. We'll be preceding that with a shenanigans party on Saturday in Indianapolis as well. So hopefully we'll see you there, Arthur, as part of our Survivor Series weekend extravaganza. Well, one pass, one fail, David Hero. Valid points from each, depending on which way you look at it. And we've got the results of our poll on Twitter right now. I guess the final say from you out there in the universe as to whether you thought it was a pass or fail. I'm a little surprised at the split here, nearly down the middle, not 50-50, but 60% of you giving it a passing grade, 40% saying it was a failing grade. A little surprised that so many people thought Raw was not as good as others did tonight. We'll talk about our final thoughts about Raw in just a moment. Before we do that, though, we want to go to the man they call Meathead to give us a little bit of a preview as to what we're going to look for and see and hear out of Impact Wrestling and this Thursday night's Sudden Impact Radio. Meathead, take it away.
Well, not even a preview, more a preview and a recap from what happened last week Thursday. Last week Thursday, we were coming off the pay-per-view, and it was the end of the Bound for Glory series. We were going to find out who was going to be the number one contender and go into Bound for Glory, TNA's, quote-unquote WrestleMania. Well, Jeff Hardy won the series due to interference from Bobby Roode going after James Storm. So that cost him the match. James Storm was hot, and he was saying it. And those guys had a Donnybrook, a slobber knocker. And this coming Thursday on Impact, you're going to see it's open fight night. Not only will we get another gut check, competitor, we're going to see James Storm and Bobby Roode go at it one more time, one-on-one, building towards their one-on-one match that you're going to see at Bound for Glory. So make sure you're joining myself, Dwayne K., the Diamond K., right after Impact, right here on Blog Talk Radio. The moment it goes off the air, we go on the air, and we talk an hour about Impact. Make sure you call in.
It's Thursday night, 9 o'clock p.m. right here on Blog Talk Radio. A couple of technical difficulties last week. I believe we got all that resolved. So we'll have a full show for you this week, each and every Thursday night, a 1-hour discussion about Impact Wrestling. Bobby Roode and James Storm this Thursday night. A little rekindling of that feud. And, David, it seemed like that one had gone away, but I guess it's back, and they are going to indeed go with that matchup at Bound for Glory, even though it's Jeff Hardy versus Austin Aries on the top for the championship.
I love Austin Aries versus Jeff Hardy. I think if they're going to make Austin Aries the next big star in TNA Impact Wrestling, there's no better person for him to work than the number one guy in that company in Jeff Hardy. And yet they're still going to give us the payoff with James Storm and Bobby Roode. It's been a year in the making for those two guys to get back together. It's been almost a year. It'll be a year in late October, early November, when Bobby Roode turned on James Storm, and finally the chase might finally come to an end. Interesting, there's still a lot of stuff they got to build in TNA Impact Wrestling to get ready for Bound for Glory. But I'm telling you right now, for me, and I don't just buy a pay-per-view for just one match, I would buy Bound for Glory just because of Austin Aries and Jeff Hardy.
Wow. Well, let's move back to WWE Raw and give our final thoughts on tonight's broadcast. And, David, I'd have to say, overall, that was a very solid show. Didn't feel like 3 hours. And as I watched it, now I had the joy of catching up on the first hour via DVR, skipping commercials, so maybe that helped. But everything just had purpose and meaning and reason, and it didn't seem like any time was wasted. Now, I've been a fan of the 3-hour Raws for the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you, because I think it has given us the opportunity to see some things on the flagship program that we would not normally see, and tonight was no exception to that. When you look at some of the things they did, including the debut of Miz TV, as we talked about some of those new programs we're going to see going forward, great tag team matchup featuring Sin Cara, Rey Mysterio, primetime players involved with that as well. Ryback really finally stepping into a bit of credibility with at least me, and explaining everything that happened without rushing it last night at Night of Champions, and even given enough time to explain what was going on with Jerry Lawler. I thought tonight's show had a solid flow and really was a good stepping stone from Night of Champions to Hell in a Cell next month. And as I said, everything just made sense to me. So that's my final thought on Raw. David Hero, how about you?
Well, I think if they're going to go with Punk versus Cena at Hell in a Cell, they got to throw a lot more gasoline on that fire, because right now they've had at least 4 or 5 pay-per-view matches in the last year against each other. They need something with a little more sizzle to now get people to buy and invest one more time into that match.
And thank you for that. Our final thoughts on WWE Raw tonight. You, finally, out there in the Twitter world, again, at PWR Show on Twitter, said tonight was a passing Raw overall. However, it was close. 40% of you saying it was a failing show. Coming up this Saturday night, it's a brand new episode of the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime Television. David Hero, big news. We're going old school, but new school, but completely different.
Old school?
And it's a big return coming up this Saturday night. The Kaz returns to primetime. Kaz is going to be back with us each and every week on My 24 Milwaukee.
Guy off?
I'm sorry?
You're dusting the Kaz off, huh?
Oh, and it took 12 different feather dusters and a vacuum cleaner attachment to get them cleaned up. Frank is ready.
The vacuum cleaner attachment is because of all the chalk from the Q-stick laying around.
I tried pouring Diet Coke on him, but it didn't work. It got stuck to those Doritos that were in his hand. But be that as it may.
Oh, wait a minute.
The Kaz joins us again for primetime this Saturday night. He's going to be reporting from the all-new PWR Event Center. Yes, indeed, the Event Center. going to prime time this Saturday night. That, of course, with more discussion on WWE Raw, what happened on this upcoming Friday SmackDown, and all the latest news from professional wrestling, all this Saturday night, My 24 Milwaukee, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube and My 24. Without, I got lost there for a minute. I was looking at an interesting tweet. But that is...
Oh, really? You need to retweet that one, then.
Well, no, I just got to look at the I'm the Tag Team Champions T-shirt available at pwrshow.com. Damn, that's a good-looking T-shirt.
It is a good-looking T-shirt. Nice job, creative.
You can find that at pwrshow.com or follow us on Twitter to get a link to get that. But anyways, that's it for this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. I want to thank everybody who called in. I want to apologize to those we did not get to. Also want to thank Meathead for the update on Sudden Impact Radio and Matthew for joining us as well. Until this Thursday night on Blog Talk Radio, this is the Pro Wrestling Report signing off. We'll see you for Sudden Impact Thursday.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, real.